The circuit is wide and the run-up is forgiving. Just don't cut the track. It might damage the car.
When it comes to racing games, particularly the street racing kind, beating titles like Microsoft's Forza or Sony's Gran Turismo franchises isn't easy. Even EA's Need for Speed series has a massive reputation, despite the fact that it has had a few false starts recently. But that's not going to keep racing experts Codemasters away. GRiD 2 is a long overdue sequel to Race Driver GRiD, and it gives all kinds of car enthusiasts something to crow about. Codemasters are probably better known for their games that are focused on particular racing disciplines, like the F1 games or Dirt franchise. GRiD 2 doesn't get that specialized. In fact, it creates its own fantasy racing league in the form of World Series Racing. This is a grouping of disparate disciplines ranging from normal street racing through things like toge and checkpoint racing, all the way to drifting events. And at the heart of this fantasy league is the player, whose job it is to drive a number of cars all around the globe to impress other racers and get them involved in WSR. GRiD 2 allows the player to do just that by dropping all the fancy stuff and concentrating on the racing. Codemasters have really worked hard to make GRiD 2 a visual treat. The available cars, though not high in number, are faithfully recreated with a high degree of detail that even extends to damaged areas. Losing a body panel in a race will reveal the details underneath. The damage model is believable and well handled in terms of visuals. Complementing the cars are the tracks. There are around 9 different locations to race through in GRiD 2, including the likes of Chicago, Dubai, Paris and Hong Kong. Each has a distinct look and feel, adding a great deal of visual context to the game. Hurtling down a straight with the Eiffel Tower looming in the background is a real treat. The track visuals are lively too, without too much repetition. Even the crowd seems more organic and less like cardboard cutouts. Small details like flying birds overhead and papers blowing in the wind add to the overall visual appeal of this title. Almost as important for enthusiasts, the cars sound great too. Each vehicle has its own distinct feel in terms of sound effects, and screaming engines mesh seamlessly with added crowd sounds to further the suspension of disbelief. On the downside, there is only one view mode available in GRiD 2, which seems intent on celebrating its great visuals. Drivers who prefer bumper cam or hood camera placements are out of luck, but the game's overall visuals go a long way to mitigate this lack of options. GRiD 2 can be a little unforgiving in terms of physics. With its stronger leanings towards rear-wheel drive muscle cars, many corners will be taken sideways, and the player will need to get used to that within the game's revamped physics engine. Those that want to get under the hood of their car may be disappointed that GRiD 2 doesn't allow for customization beyond aesthetic elements. The cars cannot be adjusted or tweaked. This won't work out well for petrol heads who want a true-to-life experience. But GRiD 2 doesn't really aim at that market. It is, on one hand, a more realistic arcade racer. On the other, it is a toned-down simulator. It straddles the divide between these two ideas quite well, though, and allows the player to get down with what's really important, racing. The AI can get a little tough at higher difficulty levels. Once again, GRiD 2 offers a stripped-down version of setting how challenging the game will be. It offers an overall difficulty setting and a choice between whether damage is purely cosmetic or will affect performance. There are no driving assists to turn on or off. One dynamic that does bear special mention is live routes. This system will have the track dynamically change during certain events, adding a new level of challenge to the player. With numerous race types and an extremely accessible nature, GRiD 2 is great fun for a wider audience. It offers the obligatory multiplayer modes too, and its potential playtime is further advanced by the fact that races can be repeated. It has a plot, yes, but the narrative is extremely simple. That's just fine really, because the game is about racing and not about a deep storyline. GRiD 2 can be very frustrating though, particularly while the player is still getting used to the handling, but it provides a great level of challenge and can be extremely exciting to get through. This title isn't about trying to take on big names like Forza, Gran Turismo or Need for Speed, simply because it plays in a slightly different field from those games. Rather, it bridges an existing divide well, providing an accessible racing game that doesn't skimp on the need for skill. With that, Codemasters have shown that they have a broader understanding of what gamers want, not just the nuts and bolts desired by enthusiasts, but also the joy of driving really fast.